Elon Musk's attempt to derail Donald Trump's Big Beautiful Bill backfired, damaging his standing in Washington and triggering renewed tension with the president. Musk, frustrated with Republicans, lashed out on X by calling them the Porky Pig Party and voiced support for one of Trump's critics, Thomas Massie. The feud caused Tesla stock to drop 7% after Trump threatened to cut government support for Musk's companies and even suggested deporting him. Despite past efforts to reconcile with Trump, Musk appears emotionally driven and unable to move on, expressing deep personal frustration with the political system. Ultimately, Musk's confrontational style and business-driven mindset have clashed with the realities of politics, leaving him isolated and ineffective in Washington. President Trump is strategically pushing the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates to support economic growth and make financing tax cuts more sustainable. By encouraging the Fed to decouple interest rates from rising deficits, Trump aims to boost investment and avoid the economic drag that typically follows large-scale borrowing. His approach reflects a bold effort to prioritize economic stimulus and growth over rigid adherence to traditional monetary norms. Market confidence remains strong, with falling bond yields and record-high stock prices suggesting investors see potential in Trump's economic strategy. While critics warn of fiscal dominance, supporters argue that Trump's proactive leadership is leveraging monetary policy to unlock America's economic potential. President Joe Biden was deeply affected by his son Hunter Biden's legal troubles, including a gun trial that exposed painful family issues just months before the 2024 election. Hunter's conviction on 3 felony charges plus scrutiny over his business dealings raised concerns within the Biden family about finances, public image, and political damage. The emotional strain contributed to Biden's poor performance in his first debate against Donald Trump, intensifying doubts about his stamina and re-election chances. As pressure mounted, Biden ultimately issued a full pardon for Hunter after Thanksgiving, reversing his earlier position and surprising even close allies. The pardon and Biden's sharp criticism of the Justice Department marked a dramatic end to his presidency and his decision to exit the 2024 race. Despite the recent US-China agreement to ease rare earth magnet exports, China is still delaying approvals, causing shortages for Western companies. Western firms face long waits, rejections, and requests for sensitive data in the export license process, with some applications taking over 45 days. The restrictions are straining global manufacturing. Ford and other automakers are scrambling to avoid production halts by paying for air freight or using weaker magnets. Chinese authorities claim the delays are due to security checks to prevent military use, but critics see it as political pressure and supply chain leverage. Although some licenses are being granted, they are limited, and many Western companies now expect export restrictions to persist indefinitely. Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin are pursuing closer ties with President Trump and his administration in an effort to win more government space contracts, especially after Trump's recent fallout with Elon Musk. Blue Origin executives had long been concerned about Musk's close relationship with Trump and saw the rift as a strategic opportunity to advance their position. Bezos has made personal overtures to Trump, including inviting him to his wedding and aligning with members of Trump's family to repair their previously hostile relationship. Despite recent progress, Blue Origin still lags behind SpaceX in launch capability and government deals, with SpaceX securing significantly more funding and missions. The rivalry between Musk and Bezos could shape the future of U.S. space policy, especially as both companies compete for major projects like moon missions and Trump's proposed Mars and missile defense initiatives. Democratic socialist Zoran Mamdani stunned Wall Street by defeating former Governor Andrew Cuomo in the New York City Democratic mayoral primary. Mamdani's platform includes progressive policies such as higher taxes on the wealthy, rent freezes, public housing investments, free bus service, and city-run grocery stores. Wall Street reacted with alarm, with some executives and companies considering relocating due to fears over taxation, crime, and socialism. Despite major financial backing, Cuomo's campaign lacked grassroots enthusiasm, while Mamdani garnered unexpected support even from individual donors within big banks. Business leaders are now strategizing to oppose Mamdani in the general election, potentially backing current mayor Eric Adams or pushing for a Republican withdrawal in exchange for political favors. President Trump stated that Russian President Vladimir Putin is the more difficult partner in efforts to end the war in Ukraine. At the NATO summit, Trump reversed his previous criticisms of the alliance, declaring NATO is not a ripoff and expressing strong support for it. Trump met with Ukrainian President Zelensky and said the U.S. may provide more Patriot missiles and possibly additional aid to Ukraine. This marks a significant shift in tone from Trump, who previously blamed Zelensky more heavily and criticized NATO's role and value. The press conference also touched on other topics like the Israel-Iran ceasefire and the future of Fed Chair Jerome Powell, signaling Trump's evolving foreign and domestic policy approach. President Trump, initially skeptical of NATO, reversed his stance at the 2025 summit in the Netherlands, calling the alliance not a ripoff after receiving praise and assurances on increased European military spending. The summit was shortened and tailored to appease Trump, with European leaders, particularly NATO Chief Mark Rutte, using flattery and emphasizing defense commitments to secure his support. Trump publicly criticized Vladimir Putin and committed to sending more Patriot air defense systems to Ukraine after a cordial meeting with President Zelensky. Despite the summit's success in keeping Trump engaged, some European officials felt the effort to please him overshadowed urgent issues like Russia's military buildup. Trump's mood improved significantly during the trip, buoyed by royal hospitality, luxurious surroundings, and the perception that his foreign policy and military actions were being validated. President Trump is considering announcing his choice to replace Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell earlier than usual, possibly this summer, to influence monetary policy before Powell's term ends in May 2026. Candidates include Kevin Warsh, Kevin Hassett, Scott Bessent, David Malpass, and Christopher Waller, with Warsh and Bessent seen as leading contenders despite concerns about loyalty and policy stances. Trump's frustration with Powell's cautious rate cut approach is driving the urgency, aiming for a more growth-focused monetary policy aligned with his agenda. An earlier nomination carries strategic risks, as the pick might be seen as undermining Fed independence or alienating needed committee members. Powell says he remains focused on economic stability and inflation control and hasn't said whether he'll stay on the Fed board after his chair term ends. President Trump confidently dared Democrats to try impeaching him again after Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez accused him of overstepping by striking Iranian nuclear sites. The majority of Democrats rejected the impeachment attempt, signaling a lack of support even within their own party for such a move against Trump. Trump's decisive military action was praised by some as a successful effort to neutralize a nuclear threat, aligning with long-standing bipartisan goals. His opponents appear divided and unsure, with key Democratic leaders focusing on procedural complaints rather than mounting a serious challenge. Trump's stance projected strength and leadership, while critics with the Democratic Party struggled to present a unified or compelling alternative. President Trump is pushing hard to deliver a major legislative win by July 4, urging Republicans to stay in Washington and finalize his big, beautiful tax and policy bill. The bill fulfills several Trump priorities, extending tax cuts, eliminating taxes on tips and overtime, increasing border security funding, and streamlining federal spending. While some lawmakers raise concerns about the deficit, Trump's allies argue the pro-growth measures will boost the economy and offset projected costs. Trump's team is navigating complex negotiations on Medicaid reform, clean energy tax phase-outs, and SALT deduction limits to build a consensus. The bill also advances Trump's vision on tech by curbing overregulation of artificial intelligence and protecting innovation from state interference. President Trump orchestrated a bold and decisive U.S. airstrike on Iranian nuclear sites, demonstrating strength while laying the groundwork for high-stakes diplomacy. Through direct calls and strategic pressure, Trump compelled both Israeli and Iranian leaders to agree to a ceasefire, asserting U.S. leadership in de-escalating the conflict. His administration anticipated Iran's limited retaliation and used intelligence coordination to protect U.S. personnel and avoid further escalation. Even as tensions flared with last-minute attacks, Trump swiftly intervened, personally calling Netanyahu and securing a halt to Israeli strikes. Trump's unorthodox but effective approach showcased his ability to achieve what previous administrations could not, forcing adversaries to the negotiating table while avoiding a drawn-out war. NATO allies, under pressure from President Trump, are set to pledge to more than double their defense spending, marking a major foreign policy win for his administration. The agreement nearly collapsed due to Spain's objections and disagreements over how to address Ukraine and Russia in the summit's final statement. To avoid conflict and keep Trump engaged, summit organizers kept the agenda and communique short, with only 5 paragraphs in the final document. NATO members aim to reach 3.5% of GDP in defense-related spending with an innovative approach that includes non-lethal investments like cybersecurity and infrastructure upgrades. Despite Spain's resistance, the alliance reached a temporary compromise, though tensions remain about maintaining unity and meeting shared commitments. The Supreme Court sided with the Trump administration, allowing swift deportations of certain migrants to third countries without delays. The administration successfully argued that the president has rightful authority over immigration and foreign policy, especially in cases involving convicted criminals. This decision was praised by the Department of Homeland Security as a win for national safety and security. The court's action overturned a lower court ruling that had slowed deportations by requiring advance notice and extra legal procedures. The administration emphasized the importance of removing dangerous individuals from the U.S., even when their home countries are uncooperative. President Trump has taken a strong stance against Iran, demanding unconditional surrender, while emphasizing that he knows the location of Iran's supreme leader but is choosing not to target him for now, demonstrating strategic restraint. Trump declared U.S. dominance over Iranian airspace, showcasing the superiority of American military technology and reinforcing his administration's commitment to national security. He left the G7 summit early to focus on the Middle East crisis, signaling that he prioritizes U.S. and global security over diplomatic ceremonies. Despite political pressure to avoid deeper involvement, Trump has kept military options open while signaling a desire for a real end to the conflict, not just a ceasefire, reinforcing his image as a decisive leader. The administration has bolstered regional defense by moving more U.S. naval assets into position, projecting strength while still allowing space for diplomacy and de-escalation. President Trump has taken a strong stance on deporting illegal immigrants to protect American jobs, demonstrating principled leadership despite causing some disruptions in key industries. There is tension within his administration between those advocating a softer economic approach and hardliners pushing for aggressive deportations, but Trump prioritizes national security and rule of law. The Department of Homeland Security temporarily paused raids on farms, restaurants, and hotels, but continues to focus on deporting illegal immigrants with criminal records. Trump emphasized large-scale enforcement in major Democratic-led cities, arguing that illegal immigration harms hardworking American workers. While businesses have faced short-term challenges, Trump's policies are expected to ultimately protect American jobs and strengthen law enforcement. Trump's launch of the $499 Trump Mobile T1 highlights his commitment to American innovation, offering advanced features that compete with Apple's top-tier iPhones. The Trump Organization announced plans for future manufacturing in Alabama, California, and Florida, reinforcing Trump's push to bring high-tech jobs back to the U.S. Eric Trump explained that while the initial phones may be produced overseas due to current limitations, the long-term goal remains full U.S. production, aligning with Trump's America First agenda. The T1 boasts premium specs, including a large AMOLED display, 12GB of RAM, 256GB storage with expandable memory, and a 50-megapixel camera, all at a notably affordable price. Despite industry skepticism, Trump's bold move challenges the tech establishment and reflects his broader vision of restoring American strength in manufacturing and technology. Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband were fatally shot, while State Senator John Hoffman and his wife were wounded in what authorities described as a targeted act of political violence. The suspect, who is still at large, impersonated a police officer and had a list of public officials in his vehicle, prompting increased security for others. The shootings occurred early Saturday in two separate locations roughly 8 miles apart, and the suspect engaged in gunfire with police before fleeing. Authorities discovered handmade No Kings protest signs in the suspect's vehicle, coinciding with planned rallies opposing President Trump's policies. Hortman was a prominent Democratic leader and former Minnesota House Speaker known for advocating progressive policies including gun control and abortion rights. Elon Musk publicly walked back his recent attacks on President Trump following phone calls with Trump and intermediaries including Vice President J.D. Vance and White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. The dispute escalated after Musk alleged on social media that Trump's name appeared in Epstein-related documents, prompting Trump to threaten terminating government contracts with Musk's companies. Vance and Wiles intervened to de-escalate tensions, encouraging Musk to reconcile, and Musk later posted on X expressing regret for his remarks. The feud caused Tesla shares to plunge 14%, wiping out over $150 billion in market value before partially recovering. Trump, while expressing disappointment over Musk's criticism of his tax bill, indicated he was open to reconciliation, signaling a softening stance.